accessible to the public or how to build trust. Talking about what is hard when you develop an AI tool, and I think that what my opinion, it's how to develop system which can work cross-platform. So in many cases, when you develop something in AI, it's work for this specific task, but it's hard to make it to work on another task. And I'm a big believer in generative AI, which is not AI, it's the next revolution of AI. And I think that in generative AI, the challenge is how to automatically or semi-automatically measure the quality of the output. I think that it's a very important point.
So tell me exactly what is the difference between AI and generative. I understand that generative means that the model itself, the AI model, would create something. It will have an output in the end. So how is it different from an AI that just goes through images and classifies them and understands them and has a different kind of input?
But the AI, the standard AI or the traditional AI also has an output. So this is not, the output is not the difference.
Yeah, right.
In a traditional AI system, the platform says something about the existing data. It gives you recommendation on a Netflix movie. It recognizes a bottle of Coke in a picture. It can tell you something that's happened in this moment, or can try to guess what will happen, but what will happen next, but it will always be on the existing data.
Yeah.
Generative AI generate data that was not there before. It create data. And it can create a text that was not there before. It create visual, a picture of faces, illustration, audio, video, that was not there before. And this is a big difference because it's not only saying something about the data, is to generate data. It's revolution, to my opinion.
Yeah. So I'm asking you, you mentioned bias, and then we have the bias in data because currently we know that most of the images on the internet are not, they're biased, right? So we have more men, we have more white men, this is what we have online, most of the images. How do we make sure that what is the input and the output of this AI would be not biased?
It's a hard task. It's a very hard task. I think that first of all, you need to acknowledge that this is a challenge you need to face with. Because until 5 or 7 years ago, no one talked about it. So the first thing is that you need to acknowledge that you have a problem. More than that, if someone talked about it in the past, he talked it in the context of how I generate the precision recall, know how I make sure that there will be no bias. It's even worse than that.
Yeah.
The way that we, it's not something that you cannot solve bias. If you're aware of the problem and you know that this is what you need to solve, then all of a sudden you find the places that you added into the system as part of the system, and it's become inherently part of it. It's like security. You don't solve for security. It's not like, okay, today we are going to do security. You understand that there are some standards that you need to meet. You understand that there are some routine that you need to keep in order to keep your platform in some level in terms of cybersecurity. Same goes for privacy. Same goes for bias. If you understand that this is part of the challenge, you make sure that your training set or evaluation set is unbiased. You make sure that you check that in advance. You make sure that you compare what you have between different subgroups. It's become part of the system, like security, like privacy.
Yeah. Do you think that AI is, you mentioned it's just a new technology, a powerful technology. It's not that different than other technologies in the past. So do you think that there is any kind of bigger challenge for an entrepreneur going with an AI product? Or it's like just another technology that you need to, I know, just to learn and understand?
Each technology has its own cons and cons or challenges. If you're an entrepreneur that doing quantum computing, you have challenge if you do quantum computing today. If you try to do I don't know synthetic protein, synthetic meat, synthetic eggs, you have challenges. It's question where are the challenges. If you are